and I'm such a big fan of the history of the business, and it's and I'm really big into that. And to go back and get Bruno, to go back and get Warrior, especially during the circumstance of how it all went down.
But you're mending fences or bridges that were burned down by those talent or events, whatever.
By whoever. And
the relationship was damaged.
Yeah, and like with Bruno, I went to Vince one day because I just always felt it was wrong that he wasn't in there. And I just went to Vince one day and I was like, hey, what do you think about Bruno? And he's like, great, should be in there, And I said, it never happened. I said, wait, you okay if I call him?
Was that much heat between them?
No, Vince wasn't angry, but I think he just thought Bruno was so angry. And
what was Bruno angry about?
They had a falling out over a lot of things over the years, and then he didn't agree.
Well, that's never happened before.
Yeah, and then he didn't agree with where the business went, and and they just had a lot of bad blood, and and then it's like it just kind of goes. I think you're mad at me, and then you think I'm mad at you, so we never talk about it, and we never.
Oh, that's so bad in this business.
It is. It's terrible, and it's because everybody's apart, and they build things up in their minds. It's a work, and this guy's he's swerving me, and it's the conspiracy theory, and and. When I went to Vince to ask him about Bruno, he was like, you call him if you want. You want to waste your time. Ain't never going to happen. I worked on that. I worked on that.
What was tougher, getting Bruno in or Warrior? I mean, just getting them back on page with Vince.
Well, they both had their challenges, and it was a lot of listening and a lot of just, I don't think that's how the feeling is this. And, it was just earning trust. Warrior was different because Bruno and I'd had one time I'd spoke to Bruno ever in my life, and I called him cold, and then we just started to have conversations, and I just, when you're his age, it's a trust issue, and he had to learn he didn't know me, and he had to learn to trust me in a business that long ago didn't have a whole lot of guys that you could trust, and he had to learn to trust me, and he said it at the end, he never once lied to me about any of this, and Warrior was different because we didn't have a trust.
Right.
We had a bad.
He was in that don't trust anybody category,
without a doubt. And it's also funny. He and I both said as we went through the process, you live and you learn and you grow. The day you stop growing, the day you stop learning and growing, you're done. Right. I was in a different place as a person when I was in WrestleMania with him, which people bring up a lot to me as if it's a sore spot in my career. It wasn't. I had a bad personal experience with a guy at the moment, but that was one of the coolest moments of my life. Vince McMahon came to me prior to WrestleMania 12 and said, hey, no one knows this yet, but the Ultimate Warrior is going to come back, and I'd like you to work with him at WrestleMania. My first WrestleMania was with the Ultimate Warrior. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it was a mind-bogglingly awesome opportunity for me and was still awesome experience. But he and I had a rub then. And then, and then over the years things are said, right, and all that stuff. And so we had to get past that for ourselves, and then we had to get past a whole lot of stuff with him and Vince, and he was a unique cat, right? And but as I stayed open to that process, I realized he was a lot misunderstood. A lot of his anger and his
I think it was a lack of
passion and
communication.
aggression. Yeah, and he didn't know how to communicate.
Yeah, that was one of my biggest issues in the Rift. And boy, all of a sudden when I go in that DTA mode, it turns into a cluster. And I know he was full of that. And just a few of the conversations that I had with him, but he seemed like a sweetheart of a guy.
He just couldn't let it go.
Right.
You get past it, right? And then he couldn't let it go.